Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Shaneria and this is Talk and Crime. If you are new here, hello, how are you? Today we have a reaction video. If you're returning, you already know I like to get into these reactions. So let's get started on today's reaction.
Fetal abduction.
I watched that 9-part story, so you don't have to. I do want to give a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about that's Angelique, and when she was 18 years old, a friend of hers tried to attempt to do a C-section on her and steal her baby. Her friend's name was Cassandra, and when her and Cassandra first met, they were in high school. She was a senior in high school. She had just recently dropped out, and at the time, Angelique was about 9 months pregnant, and Cassandra was claiming to be about 6 months pregnant. So mutual friends of theirs introduced them to each other so that they could have something to bond over, because it was a small town and not many people were in their situation. They first met, they ended up bonding, shopping together, creating their baby registries, bonding over boys, just really connecting, and she didn't think much of it. She didn't see any ill intent in Cassandra befriending her. Without Angelique really realizing it, Cassandra had started to stalk her from a distance, and she was starting to show up at parties that her and her friends were at. She even ran into Angelique's boyfriend at the time, who was now her husband, and her boyfriend told her, was like, hey, you know, I saw Cassandra at the party. And Angelique is thinking, you saw her at a party? Like, no judgment, but like, that's kind of wild. Right around the time that, you know, Angelique's delivery and her baby shower were starting to get closer, Cassandra started to show up a lot more often. And this is when Angelique ended up inviting Cassandra to her baby shower. Cassandra ended up not being able to make it to the baby shower. And this is how she landed at her house the night that everything happened. She ended up calling her a few days later and being like, hey, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it to your baby shower. Is there any way that we can hang out one-on-one? I would love to come over. And again, Angelique wasn't thinking much of it. She let her come over. They end up spending the entire day together. They're watching TV, you know, they're doing things that girls do. So while Cassandra was hanging out at Angelique's house that day, one of the conversations that popped up that later on was viewed as a red flag was the fact that Cassandra was really asking about C-sections. Angelique's mother had actually went through a C-section to have one of the children, and so she was asking her, like, how did they cut you? Where did they cut you? Can you show me the incision? She was standing up and like pointing to her stomach and being like, where exactly did they cut you? Like, show me. So at the time, they didn't think it was like a very weird line of questioning, because at the end of the day, she was pregnant. So they thought like, oh, maybe this is something that they've talked to her about and she just wants to get as much information about it as possible. As the day is going on, Cassandra is telling Angelique, like, let's go on a walk, like, let's go and like go outside. And Angelique is looking at her like, I'm 9 months pregnant, you're 6 months pregnant, there's no way, like, I'm going outside, I'm tired. Cassandra kept calling Angelique lazy, being like, you're so lazy, da da da. Angelique did not care. She was like, I'm not leaving this house. Angelique's mom takes her brother to football practice, and she even offers the girls, like, hey, do you guys want to come with me? Like, we're gonna go out, you guys can, you know, walk around a little bit, let's do it. She's like, if it's too late, like, I'll bring you guys back if the practice is too long. And so Angelique is like, yeah, let's do it, like, I'll go. At this point, Cassandra all of a sudden is like, no, I'm not feeling well, I really don't want to go. And so Angelique is like, all right. So they end up deciding to stay in the house. And so at this point, Cassandra's like, hey, I have some gifts for you, like, I would love to give it to you, go ahead and have a seat, close your eyes and turn around. And so Angelique is like, okay, cool. So she sits down, she closes her eyes, and Cassandra starts putting like a blanket, a onesie, other things that are suitable for babies in Angelique's hands, right? And then she's like, I also got this thing, this was all back in 2010. So she's like, I also got this thing that like shines light on the ceiling, like, I want to show you when it's dark in the room, like, let's go to the back, right? So Angelique is like, all right. So they go to her room, she turns off the light, and she tells her, like, okay, stand there and close your eyes. And at this point, Angelique is like, it's already pitch black in here, why do I need to close my eyes, you know? So Angelique decides to turn around, but she decides not to close her eyes. At this point, something in her intuition is like, you're in danger, she's trying to hurt you. And she all of a sudden like starts panicking, her heart starts racing. So all of a sudden, Cassandra's behind her and she's like wrestling in her bag, and she starts counting down from 3, 2. Right when she says 1, Angelique gets up and she turns the lights off. Right when she gets up and turns on the light, it kind of startles Cassandra. She shoves whatever she has back into her bag, and all of a sudden she gets a phone call, right? So she suddenly is on the phone and she's talking in Spanish. She does this often. She apparently had a husband and he only spoke Spanish. At this point, Angelique uses that as an opportunity to leave the room, and she goes to the kitchen and she starts doing her nails, and she's just observing Cassandra at this point. Cassandra gets off the phone and says that her husband is going to come pick her up and take her out to dinner, but that she doesn't have any clothes, and was wondering if Angelique would let her borrow anything. So Angelique's like, yeah, go ahead, like, there's clothes in the closet. So before that, Angelique had actually lit a candle.
It was too many signs, like, this is weird. Like, at this point, it's time to go. Like, girl, I'm tired, I want some rest, like, I'll see you another day. Like, because she was moving real weird and creepy.
candle in her room. She was waiting for Cassandra to finish dressing and come out and show her the outfit. So she comes out, she shows her, she's like, oh, that's really cute. She goes into her room and she realizes that the candle had been put out. And she also smells something really weird, like something is burning. And she's like, what does that smell? And Cassandra's acting lost. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, da, da, da. So to just test her theory, she ends up lighting the candle again. At that point, Cassandra is like, I want to try out another outfit. And so, Angelique's like, okay. So she goes outside. Angelique's standing outside of her door. She's watching Cassandra's shadow go back and forth, pacing in her room, right? At that point, Angelique bursts into the room. She's like, what is going on in here? And she notices again the candle is out, but she smells the smell even more than last time. So she starts searching every single room. She goes in her room, she goes in her brother's room. She's trying to figure out where the smell is from. All of a sudden, she opens her closet door and it's just flames coming out of her closet door. And she's like, what the hell is going on? She doesn't even know what Cassandra is doing. She grabs Cassandra, she runs out of the bedroom, she opens the garage door, she runs outside. She accidentally calls her best friend. He just happened to be the last person she talked to. He ends up calling the paramedics and the cops for her. They come. She ends up actually being able to extinguish the fire herself, but at the end of the day, she was so traumatized. All of a sudden, her friend Cassandra starts pretending and acting like she's experiencing contractions, and so they put her in the ambulance and they take her to the hospital. Mind you, Angelique was having real contractions at the time. She ends up confiding in her best friend, and her best friend clearly thinks that she's out of her mind, and he ends up telling his parents, who tell, Angelique's parents. It just ended up being this whole thing. And so she's getting interviewed at this site. She said most of it is a blur, to be honest. So once Cassandra had been taken to the hospital with the ambulance, Angelique ends up going through the baby diaper bag that she had brought with her. And when she went in there and put her hands straight into there, the first thing that she pulled out was 2 butcher knives. And it's crazy because the thing that she was thinking when she was in that room in the dark was, this woman is trying to stab you. This woman is trying to stab you. Protect yourself. So the fact that she pulled out 2 very large butcher knives absolutely terrified her. The police called Angelique in and told her, this is what Cassandra told us. She said that you were participating in a Bob Marley moment. You were gardening, and that's how the closet fire started. And Angelique is looking at them like, absolutely not. I don't know why she would say something like that. No. So what the cops propose is, let's have you call Cassandra. Act like you don't know nothing. Don't act like you know about the butcher knives, about anything, and just ask her what happened that day. Get her to confess about what happened. So at first she thought this was really weird, but she was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So she calls Cassandra up. It's like, hey girl, what's up? You didn't call me after you left the hospital. Are you okay? How's it going? And they're catching up a little bit. And then Angelique just jumps right in and she's like, hey, so it's kind of weird how that fire started. What? I don't understand. And then, Cassandra's like, yeah, I know it was weird. And she's like, yeah, because you were in my room changing, and then all of a sudden the fire started. And then, Cassandra's like, yeah, that's what happened. And she's like, yeah, because you were in my room by yourself, right? And I guess she was pressing it too hard. The lines of questioning was just seeming a little suspect, because whoever was in the background of the phone call with Cassandra told Cassandra, get off that phone call. Moments later, she hung up the phone. And so the police told,
yeah, you definitely was pressing her a little too hard with the conversation, but
so the police told her yeah, they probably got onto you, whoever she's with, basically just told her to get off the phone because your line of questioning kind of gave it away. Honestly, the cops weren't doing much because Angelique had a troubled past and she was the bad kid in town. She's from a very small town. The cops were kind of mocking her and joking with her in her perception when she listened back to the interview tapes. She felt like she needed to take things into her own hands and go ahead and do some investigating. So she ends up doing a little bit of digging and finding out that somebody that is connected to Cassandra, she actually went to middle school with. So she reached out to her old middle school friend and was like, hey, do you know this girl? Da 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 da. Come to find out, this girl was Cassandra's cousin. And so Angelique says she word vomits and just fills her in on everything that happened. And the cousin says, I believe you. And at this point, Angelique is shocked. She's like, what the heck? How do you believe me? She's like, my cousin is schizophrenic, manic depressive, bipolar. And at the time they called it multiple personality disorder. We know it today as dissociative identity disorder. And she said that she has had a long history of mental health issues. And the fact of the matter is, pregnancy and parenthood is something that she's very obsessed with. She has admittedly in the past also pretended to be pregnant. And so at this point, Angelique is like, boom, bombshell. She gets all this information, contact information. She ends up looking up Cassandra on articles and ends up finding an article of her when she was younger, running away, also confirming that she did have mental health issues. And so she gets all this information, compiles it, sends it over to the cops, and she's like, hey, look, this is everything everything that I found, do something. And so the cops are just like, okay, like we'll do something. They actually ended up finding fingerprints on the candle that was used to set the closet on fire. They ended up finding Cassandra's fingerprints on it. She ended up having, you know, early contractions and having her child early in the hospital. It was so bad and she was so uneasy. She had cops stationed outside of her room. They had to use a passcode to be able to come into her room just for safety reasons. Once Cassandra went to the hospital, they had no whereabouts of where she was. Nobody can find her. No one can track her down. So she very much felt unsafe for the rest of her pregnancy through the delivery. After Angelique gave birth to her baby, she couldn't even go live in that same bedroom anymore. She actually ended up moving all of her things into the living room and sleeping there. Anytime her parents would try to wake her up, she would wake up swinging because she was just so traumatized. And it was just a really rough time. One day, her mother wakes her up and she's like, hey, Detective Turner's on the phone. So she gets on the phone with him and they basically inform her. They're like, hey, we got her. Cassandra's in custody and she has given us a confession. So at this point, Angelique's not even thinking about the confession. She's just thinking, you got her. I'm sitting here with my newborn. I'm finally safe. You finally have her in custody. I'm so happy. I'm so relieved. What they initially charged Cassandra with was a lot. So I'm going to read it off my notes. Attempted first-degree murder, arson, burglary, attempted kidnapping, and other crimes. And her bail was set at about $500,000. So in her confession, Cassandra admits to the fact that she planned to perform a C-section, steal the baby, murder the mother, and set a fire to not only destroy evidence, but also to get rid of the body. Now, the fire was not initially a part of the plan, but when her first initial plan didn't work, she decided that she was going to use the smoke from the fire to knock out Angelique, perform the C-section, and then get away that way. And then also, again, to ruin the evidence. And so this is what she ended up finding out. So what
that plan sucked. You was bound to get caught. You was bound to drown. Like, you was bound to get yourself killed if she would have figured out you was trying to kill her. Girl.
Yeah. So what the police misled Angelique to believe is that the reason Cassandra did all of this is because she was not able to have babies and that this made her obsessed with babies. So she wanted to steal her child for that reason. And so what they ended up telling her was just that. And come to find out later on in the story, that was not true at all. So once Cassandra was in custody, a year goes by where she doesn't really hear much. And then she doesn't really talk to many like lawyers or get any legal advice. Someone does reach out to her and basically tell her like the pros and cons of her going to trial, and says that one of the major cons of her going to trial, even though they have the butcher knife, they have the confession, they have all these other things to prove that she very much was intending on doing this, they didn't read Cassandra her Miranda rights. And so because they didn't read her the Miranda rights, there was a chance that if they went to trial, she could walk on all of these charges. Angelique admits she did not do any further checking, research to find out exactly what was going on, but this is what they told her. They said she has two options. She can get a plea and she can go and spend 8.5 years at the Arizona State Hospital, or she can go straight to prison, and it's your decision where she goes. And so after thinking about it a little bit and, you know, really figuring out what was the best decision, Angelique decided to send Cassandra to 8.5 years to Arizona State Hospital because she felt like if she was going to get released at the end of the day, she was going to need to have some rehabilitation and have these mental health issues actually addressed. So she was like, this is a better option for her. So that's what Angelique ended up deciding, telling the courts to do. So when it was time for the sentencing, she read what I would think is her victim statement and, you know, tried to get through it without crying, but it was just so hard to like really look at this girl in the face and be like, wow, you really traumatized me. When Cassandra was asked if she had anything else to say, she just looked at the judge and said, no, judge. And when she was asked again, like, are you sure? She said, no, judge. And at this point, you know, Angelique was really hurt because she was like, you betrayed me as a friend, you betrayed me in so many different ways, and you don't even have anything to say to me. Like, okay. At the time, she does admit, like, I regretted my decision. I should have sent her to prison, but whatever. I still stand by the fact that I want her to be rehabilitated. Of course, Angelique's trial ended up getting a lot of media attention internationally. In the United States, Dr. Phil, Anderson Cooper, a lot of people wanted to interview her. At the end of the day, many of them wanted to alter her story or tell it from a certain perspective, and she just wasn't willing to let that happen. And so once everything kind of went back to normal, she waited for the right opportunity to be able to tell her story, and in the end, it was still kind of like altered and taken away from her. I guess one of the things that this crime is called is womb raiding, and this is something that Angelique wanted to bring, you know, awareness to show other mothers what the red flags are. And so when she went on the Dr. Phil show, they promised that she was going to have creative control over her story. She was going to be able to tell it in her truth, and they weren't going to alter it. Once everything started getting rolling, though, Dr. Phil, she says in her opinion, definitely victim blamed her, made her feel like you knew all of this was going to happen and you allowed it to happen, when in her perception, she's like, I listened to my intuition and I stopped this from happening. God forbid, had it been somebody else, they might not have listened to their gut. Thank God I listened to my intuition. She felt like Dr. Phil was dragging her and being like, wow, like you felt this, you said that, and you still let her stay and you still let her turn off the lights. She felt like the audience was like laughing at her and just really like making her feel really insecure. After that Dr. Phil episode, she did not want to talk about her story at all for a very long time. It was just so hurtful. The PTSD was very vivid. But when she was ready to look at everything, she ended up going and asking the police for all the paperwork. It took some time. They told her, hey, you can come and get it. It consisted like 8 CDs, one of which was her own confession, along with, you know, Cassandra's confession and other neighbors and friends that were interviewed. So she's listening to Cassandra's confession. Come to find out, Cassandra never stated that that was her reason for taking the baby. She said nothing about wanting it for herself. What actually happened was Cassandra was a girlfriend of a gang leader, and this gang leader apparently wanted this baby. He was going to sell it to a person across the border in Mexico, and they were going to take the money and they were going to live happily ever after. So this is all speculation, but what Angelique thinks happens is that they used Cassandra to confess and to get to a bigger fish. They were like, hey, if you help us, we'll help you. The other thing that Angelique noticed when she was going through the paperwork is that they did in fact read Cassandra her Miranda rights, and so she just didn't understand why they said everything that they said, why they misled her, outside of the fact that they struck a deal with her. So with Cassandra's case, she was going to be up for medical evaluation every 6 months to see if she was ready to be, you know, turned over to the prison to continue and finish out the rest of her sentencing. Every 6 months, they within 5 minutes would rule, nope, not mentally stable, send her back. And so when the 8.5 years were coming towards a close, they basically did not put any repercussions on her re-entering society. They didn't say that she had to take her medicines. They didn't say anybody had to check in on her. They were just like, yep, you're ready to go. And so this really worried Angelique when she found out that she was going to be released, because she said within 5 minutes, you guys used to know, like, this woman is not ready to be released. And now because her, you know, sentencing is coming to an end, you're just like, yep, all is well and good, the medicines magically work. And she's like, yes, I understand medication takes a long time to figure out your specific concoction and what works for you, but at the end of the day, are you really telling me that she was ready to go right when her 8.5 years came up? Like, very hard to believe. So when the board reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to come speak at her, you know, release hearing, she at first said no, and then reluctantly thought about it, and then was like, you know what, I think to ensure my safety, my child's safety, I need to go and speak at this board hearing. So the week of the board hearing, she reached out to them and said, hey, can I still show up? And they were like 100%. So she goes. It's other people there that are also hearing other cases. It's not like, you know, the sentencing. And so she gets up there and she reads out her statement. She tells them exactly why she feels like this woman is not ready to be released, how this has impacted her and her family's life, and all of these things. And come to find out, voting to release Cassandra, the one woman was the only woman that voted against it. And she stood up and was like, absolutely not. We need to have a revote, because after hearing this woman's statement, there is absolutely no way we are ready to release this woman back into society. So they go to the back, they have a 30-minute recess. At this point, Angelique is having a full-on meltdown in the bathroom. When she first saw Cassandra walk into the courthouse, when she caught eye contact with her, it was so overwhelming. She just put her head into her best friend's shoulder and just cried. Only other people that were there was her father and another woman that wasn't her victim advocate, because her victim advocate said, hey, your case happened so long ago, I'm not going to come and support you during this time. Mind you, the lady that was there to help out Angelique during the releasing hearing told her, I've never seen this happen before. I've never seen them decide to do a revote. So after they come back, after deliberating for a second time, they still decide to release her. The only thing that was different was that they said in 6 months, we're going to have to do a check-in and make sure that she's taking her medication. So Angelique was like, it's not nothing. It's definitely not something, but I will take it. That all happened in August of 2019. Since then, her and her family have been living happily ever after. She's had no issues. But she just, you know, obviously again wants to spread awareness. But I think the biggest lesson in her story, and I think even in her opinion, is listening to your intuition. And we talk about that on this page so much, how important it is to listen to your intuition, to always follow that gut feeling, because 9 times out of 10, it is trying to keep you safe. It is trying to save your life. I definitely wanted to share this story with you guys. You guys tagged me in this a bunch. Angelique, you are a strong soldier. I am so sorry that you had to go through this. I'm so happy you and your baby are safe. I'm glad that you were able to like listen to that gut feeling and make it out of this. I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you have a wonderful day. You guys already know what the deal is. Here's that. hears that. I love you guys so much. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
That situation was crazy. And I have heard of another situation kind of like this, but the lady succeeded in kidnapping this woman and also trying to kill her, took the baby. The son was kind of involved too. He didn't know what was going on, but he was trying to help his mother. But she wound up getting caught also. The baby wound up surviving. But I definitely heard a story, like, not exactly like this, but something happened like that before. So this stuff does happen. Like, it's beyond scary when somebody is literally trying to take your baby that's not even born yet, knowing the possibility it could kill you and your baby, or kill you and then this crazy person got your baby. Like, that was scary. I'm sorry she had to experience this, but again, if a person don't know like what to expect, how you expect them to just, oh, look at the red flags. Sometimes the red flags are blear, like they're not paying attention when it's like right now, when it's happening right in front of their face, right? But thinking back after it all happened, she started realizing that these were the red flags and she should have caught on, you know, before it got even so far out of hand. But baby girl definitely would have already gotten out of my house when she kept trying to beg me to walk and calling me lazy. Cause who are you? Who you are to call me lazy? Like, we ain't friends if you want to call me lazy because I don't want to walk. But that girl was definitely crazy. I feel like she should have gotten more than 8 years because she attempted to kill a person and the police covered up stuff just so this girl don't get that much time. Is weird to me. Like, if that was your daughter, if that was your loved one, you would have wanted her to get justice, right? You would have wanted the person that tried to kill her and take her baby to get more time. So why did y'all cut her as much slack as y'all did and then turn around and let her out after the 8 years? Like, if she's like needed all this type of help and on all this type of medicine, as her cousin said. But I'm happy that it ended with a better ending, and I hope they never experience this again. You guys, keep an eye on the red flags. If your gut is telling you something, listen to your gut and get out of there, because you never know when your life is in danger and there's nobody there to help you. So you guys, drop down in the comment section like always and tell me what you think about this reaction video. You guys, don't forget to like, comment, and if you are new here, join the family by subscribing. If you are returning, thank you. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a blessed day. Peace.